Okay, let's jump right in. Welcome to this deep dive. We've got a stack of your source material here, all focused on the crypto space from June 17th, 2025.
That's right. And our goal today is really to unpack what these sources are telling us about what's grabbing attention, getting beyond just the headlines to the signals underneath.
Absolutely. And we have this one central piece. The title is Dogecoin Fans Cheer on Memes, but Crypto Analysts Quietly Shift Their Attention to Lightchain AI. That's alongside quite a few other market updates from the same day.
It's a really interesting mix. And starting with that main article, yeah, the contrast is pretty immediate, isn't it?
It really is. You've got the Dogecoin side of the memes, the community energy. That's still very much a thing.
Oh, definitely. That cultural aspect, the enthusiasm, it's still driving a lot of talk, but like the title says, the article highlights something else happening, maybe more quietly.
Right. This idea that analysts are quietly shifting their attention towards late chain AI.
Exactly. It suggests a split, almost. You have the public hype, the meme coin focus, and then maybe let's call it the more analytical crowd looking at specific tech developments.
So the people digging into fundamentals might be tracking completely different things than what's buzzing on social media. That juxtaposition in your sources is, well, it's key to understanding the market layers right now.
It really is. And, this shift isn't happening in a vacuum. Your other sources point to some pretty big institutional moves, which adds another important dimension here.
Metaplanet, for example,
hmm
that really stood out from the material you shared, boosting their Bitcoin holdings to 10,000 BTC. That's a big number.
It is a big number. And the source gives the detail they bought another 1,112 BTC to reach that 10,000. But it's the how that's maybe even more interesting.
Oh, yeah. The funding, the source mentioned they launched what was it, a $210 million bond issuance?
Exactly, a $210 million bond. And the report specifically says it was designed to fuel continued Bitcoin buying.
So it's not just we bought some Bitcoin. It's we've set up a financial structure to keep buying Bitcoin.
Precisely. It signals a very strong ongoing commitment, a strategic approach. The source even points out their stash now tops Coinbase's holdings. Quite a statement.
Yeah, that's a powerful vote of confidence from the institutional side, finding structured ways to accumulate more.
Okay, stepping away from Bitcoin for a sec, your sources also flagged some specific altcoin action.
Right, we saw AltLayer mentioned. The material noted it had a pretty sharp spike, up 35%. That was on June 16th, the day before these articles.
And the reason given in the source was quite clear, wasn't it? The upcoming listing on Upbit.
Yeah, South Korea's big exchange. Getting listed there, especially in a market like South Korea, often gives a coin a big visibility and accessibility boost. It's a classic, almost textbook catalyst.
Straightforward supply and demand impact. Then you had Chainlink in there too. Source said it moved up, about 3%, near $13.69, and it's getting some attention. Yeah, the sources suggest market watchers are seeing maybe a technical pattern forming, some signs of momentum returning for L&K. And there was one analyst mentioned specifically in the report who's apparently eyeing a target somewhere in the $32 to $38 range.
So for Chainlink, it's less about a single event like a listing and more about technicals, chart patterns, maybe just a shift in how analysts are feeling about it.
Exactly. A different kind of driver analysts reading the tea leaves in the price charts and market sentiment.
But it's not all trading and price action. Your sources also brought up the regulatory side of things, specifically a warning from Senator Warren.
Right. This touches on potential future rules and risks. Senator Warren's concern, according to the source material, was about the Genius Act proposal.
And her specific worry, as the source laid it out, was that this act might open the door for tech billionaires to create their own stablecoins.
Yes, and the core issue she raised, again, just reporting what the source says here, is the potential for these stablecoins to be designed to, track people's spending habits. It really flags that ongoing tension between innovation, privacy, and control in the digital currency space. Definitely a key debate highlighted in your sources.
It just shows how tangled this all is. Tech, markets, policy, privacy concerns, all wrapped up together. And speaking of tech applications, we also saw a source mention new uses for blockchain.
Viberate was the example given. It's using blockchain for music analytics. The source said it's providing data for over 11 million artists.
So that's blockchain getting into specific industry niches, right? Not just currency, but as a tool for data integrity or transparency in places like the music business. practical stuff.
Yeah, it's an example of the tech maturing, finding actual problems it can help solve, building tools on top of those blockchain principles.
Okay, and then finally, kind of a different angle. Your sources included just a brief mention of prediction market, Polymarket specifically.
Yeah, just a quick note. It mentioned that bets on Polymarket about a potential U.S. strike against Iran had surged, hit 67% at one point that day before dropping back down.
That's interesting, isn't it? Using these decentralized markets, almost like a real-time sentiment gauge for geopolitical risk, shows how these crypto-adjacent platforms are sometimes reflecting wider world events.
It does. It's just another piece of the whole information ecosystem around crypto on that particular day. A diverse set of inputs from your sources.
So we've definitely covered quite a bit from the crypto landscape on June 17th, just based on this source material you provided.
We really have. From, that potential analyst shift moving maybe from the meme coin excitement around Dogecoin towards tech like Lightchain AI, all the way to major institutional plays, like Metaplanet hitting 10,000 Bitcoin, and crucially, using that big bond issuance to keep acquiring.
And we saw those specific altcoin moves too. AltLayer jumping because of the Upbit listing, a very clear catalyst. And then Chainlink attracting attention based more on technical analysis and sentiment, with analysts putting out those higher price targets.
Plus, the regulatory angle is critical. Senator Warren's concerns about the Genius Act and stablecoin surveillance, that's a big ongoing discussion. And then you have the flip side, blockchain finding practical uses like vibrate in music analytics.
Oh, and that little snapshot from Polymarket on geopolitical bets.
Yeah, it really paints a picture, doesn't it? The crypto world on that day, based on these sources, it's a mix of everything. Speculation, serious institutional strategy, regulatory watchfulness, and, quiet building of new applications, kind of pulls in multiple directions at once.
So when you look at all this from the sources, what does it mean for you navigating this space? Well, it shows a market that's definitely not monolithic. It's evolving on many fronts, sometimes seemingly contradictory ones.
Which really brings us to a key question to think about based on everything we've just discussed from your sources. You got this meme-driven energy, right? But also these quiet analytical shifts towards new tech like Lightchain AI. You've got massive institutional buys happening alongside intense regulatory debates. So the question for you is, which of these forces, the hype, the tech, the institutions, the regulators, do you think will ultimately be the most decisive in shaping where crypto goes next?